Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on February the 27th, 2024. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, building a paper airplane,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's episode, we will be going over the February Game Club, A Bird Story. We'll tell you about the next Game Club. SteamWorld Build underperformed, says publisher Thunderful. Twisted Metal game reportedly canceled by Sony amid mass layoffs. And Nintendo takes Switch emulator Yuzu to court. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
What's shaking, bacon?
Not much. Not that you don't know already, right?
Right. Not that we haven't been talking for 45, 50 minutes, almost an hour.
I'm enjoying my heating pad. A little bit of a sore back. Spelling a menthol.
Right. Good times all around then. That's what I'm hearing.
Ratcheting my back a little bit. Although not hurting as much as I expected to. So there is that.
Which is good. Pain sucks, but if it's less than you thought it would be, or should be, then good job. Oh, excuse me. That one snuck up on me. Anyways. Yeah. You want to just go ahead and dive into our Game Club this month?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. So Game Club is the time of the month where we intentionally play the same game at the same time because we have some diverse tastes, and Game Club is also a chance to discover something a little bit different sometimes.
Indeed.
And this month we played A Bird Story.
Indeed. A Bird
and intentionally
Story.
Picking a short game for the month of February because originally you were going to be gone, but yeah, life changed, but
Yep, it still worked out. I mean, honestly, I wish that there were more short games. And I know that there are more short games than I play, but I kind of have two modes for gaming. Either I'm going to hyper-focus on it, fixate on it for weeks, potentially months, and then drop it for ever or for long periods of time, or I want it to be a little something that I can bite into in one setting or one afternoon. And Bird Story definitely follows that.
Yeah. I kind of have three modes. I have the hyperfixation. I have a quick in and out, but also I have the background game. I have a few of them for that, like the Hunter, Stove Runner. I still dive into from time to time. Vampire Survivors is a little of both. So yeah, I have a few that I do check out from time to time and have as kind of the background as well.
Yeah.
And Bird Story definitely goes into the small bite.
Yeah. Bird Story, for anyone who doesn't know, Bird Story is a decent amount, a decent age at this point. What? Is it 10 years old? Is it that old? Let's look. When did Bird Story release? 2014. November 7th, 2014. So coming up on 10 years for Bird Story. And Bird Story is the sequel,
not
prequel,
really.
Kind of in between.
The store page has it as an experimental game.
Yes, but it's when you go look at the wiki for the game, there's a quote from the dev saying it's To the Moon 1.5. Because it's in that same sort of so there are two sequels, two full sequels to the Moon, which kind of follows that same story idea of we're gonna go into somebody's dreams and do something and change it before that they die. Have them feel like they fulfilled their life's wish before they died. And the kid that you play in A Bird Story is the next one in that line, which that game is called Finding Paradise. So Finding Paradise,
this is essentially a prologue to Finding Paradise.
Yes, indeed. Which I do want to play Finding Paradise now, and Imposter Factory, which Imposter Factory is their most recent one, which came out in 2021. I don't know if they're still developing games, but We loved To the Moon when we played it several years ago,
Yeah.
and
except for one portion of it that I think we both kind of looks like they have something on Kickstarter or had something on Kickstarter. A card game for To the Moon.
Oh, interesting. But yes, by and large, we really liked To the Moon. Broadly speaking, I liked A Bird Story, and so
A Bird Story was okay, but it was also kind of weird that it feels like I had this feeling of an hour-long game that was too long. And I think that's partially just because it is a very hands-off experience for long portions. I would say a good half the time you're just sitting watching, essentially the cutscenes.
Yeah, for starters, to call Bird Story a game,
Yeah,
the tag experimental game is much more in line. It has some very bare bones mechanics where you walk around and interact with things in certain scenes, and then there's occasionally like with the bread, whenever you use the directional buttons, you push 2 at once to rip the bread vertically, and then another 2 to rip it horizontally. But that's that happens once, and there's a couple other times where that you are pressing keys and it's representing something, like at the end when you release the bird. I will say though that I didn't realize that it was from 2014, but thinking about I knew that this game was old, and thinking about this compared to this small niche genre of this type of game that has developed particularly on mobile devices over the last few years, last 5 years maybe, I can see some people playing this game and being inspired to do something with these sort of very small, very short, story, experimental story type games. I'm not saying that this is worth giving it an A++ or whatever, but having played some of these games myself, I can kind of see okay, well, this makes me think of some games I've played on mobile where that you're using the touch screen as part of the way to interact with and tell the story without dialogue. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the game because it's been years since I played it, but there was a mobile game I played several years ago and talked about on the show where that you're playing the story of 2 people's romance, and you're using the touch screen to interact with some pseudo puzzles where that there's no dialogue, but the actual tension within the puzzle itself is it's telling the story, and the whole thing takes 30 or 45 minutes to do. So even shorter than this,
it's bugging me because you went on and on about it.
Yeah, I know. But my point is that I could believe that oh, those people saw A Bird Story, and got the idea for making their own little experimental storytelling experience game or whatever. So not enough to give Bird Story an A+++, but it's thinking about to go to a different medium. Yes, Florence, thank you. But to go to another medium to maybe more succinctly give this example, Die Hard, right? In films, Die Hard did so many things that have been copied by future films that to go back and watch Die Hard from the perspective of if you saw a whole bunch of other movies and then you go back and watch Die Hard, you're oh, this is weird. All these other movies did this more or better. And it's well, yeah, but it started with Die Hard. That's kind of where I think that maybe a little bit that's where this is coming from, because it's 10 years old. Yeah. We have seen this done better now, but at the time it was very new and different and interesting.
But it also was a very cheap game to begin with, and that's kind of why I'm giving it a lot of slack as well, is that it was meant to be an experiment, and I'm pretty sure it's been thrown into so many bundles at this point, right?
Yeah.
That I don't hate it, but I didn't feel myself drawn in until the halfway point.
Yeah. I think I got invested. Okay, well, actually, to rewind just a second, Bird Story took me about an hour and a half to get through. I'm not exactly sure I started playing it at 4, and when I checked the clock when I was done, it was about 5:45. So hour and a half, smidge longer, maybe.
Well, I played it in actually 2 sessions because I had to go eat dinner, or go make dinner and then eat. So I was playing on the Steam Deck, so I just suspended and then could resume later on.
Yeah, I did one sitting. But anyways, so it's a very short game, and it tells the story of a little boy, and it utilizes its music, a few gaming elements, that we've mentioned, like the few sort of control elements and icons. It uses the actual sort of what your expectations of interacting with objects in games to be, through its art style as well, to tell this sort of fanciful story about a little boy who's disconnected from the world around him. And this is like my interpretation. None of this is explicitly laid out, so this is 100% my interpretation. Tells the story of a little boy who is disconnected from the world for some reason. It's not said. He seems to be very imaginative, very, kind of like a dreamer, kind of head in the clouds kind of kid.
Like a latchkey kid. I mean, you never see the kid's parents at all, and there's several times where going to school, he'll find a note, from presumably his parent, a parent or parents.
Yeah, which I was about to say, like, there's that aspect, and I think the implication is that it's a single parent home. Although that is strictly an inference that I'm making. But anyway, so this kid who's very disconnected finds a bird who's being attacked by, I think that's a weasel.
I thought it was a honey badger.
Oh, maybe it was
or some sort of a badger.
I don't fucking know. He saves this bird. The bird gets injured, and he takes care of the bird for some amount of time. The game doesn't really say, and there are a number of days that pass in game, but there's a kind of
montage.
A montage, yeah, and so it's unclear how much time passes. I'm guessing a week, maybe 2 weeks tops in this kid's life.
I would go more towards like a month.
Really?
Just because it looked like a wing injury, which could take a while to heal.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I've never cared for birds, so I didn't know how.
I haven't either, but I'm imagining some sort of injury like that would take a while to heal up.
Yeah. But so he's got this bird that he's not supposed to have, and he gets discovered. Like, initially he takes it to the vet, and then it seems like the vet is going to cage the bird and keep it, and he takes the bird and he runs away. And so, but eventually he gets caught with the bird, and the bird gets taken away from him. That's another one, that sort of fanciful scene that's, in his imagination. There's a storm. Does some interesting stuff with imagery. But anyways, then he experiences a time, again, an indeterminate amount of time, whether he seems pretty depressed and becomes disconnected again. But then the bird returns, and they're reunited before the bird shows off its mate, and then the boy sets the bird free and learns a lesson, I guess. That part is kind of unclear, but he seems content. It's a very, very straightforward, fairly generic story, but personally I thought that it was told very well with those little bits of ludology, which is, telling the story through play, and then the music and the art style. For example, like, there are only 3 characters in the entire thing that have like fully developed, colored in, distinct sprites, which is the kid, the bird, and then the bird's mate at the end of the game. Everyone else is kind of some degree of transparent. And like the kids and some generic adults are, very transparent, or their silhouettes. The teacher and the doctor, or the vet, are a little more defined, but they're still kind of generic, nondescript sprites. So it's that's interesting, an interesting thing. The art style being sort of very fanciful. You get mixed scenes where you have like indoor terrain or indoor stuff mixed with outdoor textures, and you walk through doors into, the space is not real. It's utilizing its the nature of it being a game to engage with spaces that are not real, and that would be difficult, if not impossible, to shoot for like a movie, for example. So I think those things help to convey the story elements really well. And on it, like I got pretty emotional a couple of times. It's I didn't like have a full breakdown and cry. Like I have cried at other things that we've done for Gameclub, and I wasn't crying, but I was like pretty invested at times and like feeling some things. And I don't know how much of that is my own personal experiences growing up with some of those feelings, or being a dad and having conversations with my kid about stuff, how that he sometimes feels that way. I don't know where that comes from, but I assume it's, deeply personal connections that I have to some of the themes that are presented in the story. But I felt like it got me hooked emotionally.
Yeah, like I said, I started to get really invested about the halfway point once I saw how the bird was kind of changing the boy's life, how he was starting to get a little bit more popular, especially after bringing the bird to show and tell, and that he didn't feel like so much of a loner, but he still preferred his space, Yeah. But remember, I'm also a gameplay mechanic guy more than anything, so there was a few times that I started to zone out whenever it was long cutscenes, which might just be a failing on my part. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also one portion in like the last third of the game where you're on the giant paper airplane. So the boy imagines building a giant paper airplane out of the pages of a book to find the bird's mate and find where it belongs. And there was a sequence in that where you're going to different islands in like a dreamscape, and they're trying to find the matching bird essentially. And I missed a screen transition, so I ended up spending a lot more time there than I really should have, just because I didn't realize, I needed to go one more screen to the right,
Yeah.
And I think that's, once again, might just been a failure on my part. I'm not sure if it just, was poorly communicated, where to go. And I'm not asking for, giant arrow, go this way, idiot. But
there are plenty of times where it does flash arrows on the screen.
Yeah, that's kind of
go here.
Yeah. There's plenty of times it specifically does that. And like one small stealth section as well. Yeah, stealth section as in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I actually really liked that, because for me, I'm like, okay, this kid feels like... Because that's a very kid thing to do. Like, you're hyper aware. You're not supposed to have a pet. He shows up with a pet, and he thinks this guy sitting there is gonna, I don't know, call the cops or whatever. So he gets, this big red vision cone, and he's reading a book or something, and he looks up every once in a while. But, if you're in the vision cone, as a kid, you just, run away. You just, I don't know if you got hit by the cone. I deliberately walked into the cone because I wanted to see what happened. And the kid just, jumps out of the way, and, he pants for a second, and then, you just get to try again. So it's the kid is... it's playing it like the kid is way overreacting to this person just sitting there, which I think is cute. As again, as a parent with a 9, almost 10-year-old, kids are dramatic. They do stuff like that. They build things up in their mind to be way bigger than they actually are. Mm-hmm. And so I found that kind of endearing. And it's, it takes 15 seconds and then it's done. I do appreciate that. Yeah. Instead of them making it a recurring mechanic. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say. And not because it's bad. It's just short. It's so short.
Oh, and also it makes me wonder how it ties into the main story of Finding Paradise. And I don't want to, really try to dive into that or find out, how it factors in there, because it would spoil the next game in the series, right?
Yeah.
So outside of a simple story, it's hard to really kind of place it on, what I think about this in the greater context of things. Because it's like criticizing the prologue of a book without reading the rest of the book, right?
Yeah.
Well, this seems really short and very simple, but I don't see the point of it, right?
Yeah. I will say, as the more story oriented one out of the two of us for game design and stuff, this feels like a simple but effective story that makes its point, does it fairly succinctly, and I think overall does a beautiful, in terms of like the music and the art style and the use of ludology, ludonarrative. I love that word. I feel like it does a good job with that, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, I mean, this is the length of, or really shorter than a movie, like a modern, blockbuster, air quotes, movie. So I appreciate that. To me, this feels like a pretty good, like, B+, A- type of game. And like you said, like, it's super cheap. It's in bundles all the time. Even if you don't get it bundled, it's like $3 on its own on Steam. I think you can get all of them on Switch, I think. So it's
yeah, and playing it on Steam Deck, it was literally just load up a community profile, and even though it says playable, yeah, it's literally just making it a bind to Clickworks.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you have anything else to add?
Not really. I do look forward to trying out Finding Paradise. Hopefully this year sometime.
Yeah, we don't have all the games set, and surely it'll be on sale during the next one of the next Steam sales. So maybe a little bit later in the year, Finding Paradise, and I'm gonna get both of them, Finding Paradise and Imposter Factory. Although Imposter Factory seems like it's drastically different just by the blurb. The blurb for Imposter Factory is a bonkers time loop tragicomedy murder mystery thriller featuring multiple casualties and a suspicious cat from the creators of To the Moon and Finding Paradise. That seems like a drastic departure from what they've done, but maybe it's not. Who knows? Oh, is this game relevant to you? This game doesn't look like other things you've played in the past. That is so rare. But anyways, yeah. Looks like it's using the same characters though. The sort of the main characters, the techs. So, who knows? Looking forward to it though. Finding Paradise, Imposter Factory.
Historic low for Finding Paradise was $1.99. Currently on sale at Fanatical for $8.89.
Okay.
I just hang on. I'm not sure if the bundle's one of those. Buy and finish it off. I'm not logged into Steam on this browser.
Huh. So it looks like, and they made. Oh, sorry about that. Looks like there is just a To the Moon series beach episode. The beach episode TM of To the Moon, Finding Paradise and Imposter Factory. ... But something's off. Okay.
That's Imposter Factory?
No, this is something else that they've done that's not out yet, but it just says it's coming soon. Get ready for a new short adventure as the SigCorp crew takes off on an all-expenses-paid vacation to the Golden Lobster Hotel and Resort for a grand total of 1 day, which is apparently the most the company was willing to pay for. Join familiar faces from To the Moon, Finding Paradise, and Imposter Factory in this narrative adventure filled with mini games of varying elements, mysteries, and relaxation, as well as... Wait, most of the characters here should already be dead? Okay, I guess that's the twist that they give away in the blurb. I reckon we would need to, play the others.
And possibly replay To the Moon at this point.
I played To the Moon 2-3 times at this point. I mean, certainly a replay wouldn't hurt, but I think I more or less remember the story. All right. Anyways, I already asked, but did anything else to add? I do not have anything else to add.
No.
Okay. So yeah, from me, solid B+ to A- range.
I would say B, maybe B-.
Okay. Which I feel like that checks out as me, the more story-oriented person, giving it a higher rating.
Yeah, I have a feeling the next one's going to be more mod jam though.
I guess
for gameplay mechanics.
Being the next Gameclub game or the next in the series?
Next Gameclub game.
Right. Excellent segue that I'm ruining by calling out. It's been a while since I've done that. Yes, our next Gameclub game from March.
The French accent's coming out already.
Is a game called Jusant. It's a French word. Or Jusant, which is the American bastardized pronunciation that I saw that was like the second pronunciation. But yes, this French word is a puzzle game. Let's see. Enjoy meditative vibes in Jusant, an action puzzle climbing game. Scale an immeasurably tall tower and ascend to new heights alongside your watery companion. Master your climbing tools, find your way up through diverse biomes, and piece together the tower's path. This one is available on Game Pass, so any of our Game Pass people can just install and play. I guess if you really wanted to buy it, you can do so on Steam. I don't know what it costs. Let's look this up real quick.
Well, it's 25% off right now. It's $18.74.
Yep. Normally priced at $24.99.
I'm either going to love or hate this game, and I'm not sure which.
Yep.
But that's kind of the fun of it. Looking at the climbing mechanics, it reminds me of like Grow Home and Go Home.
Yeah.
A couple I did ages ago about a robot that essentially grows a tower out of vines.
And for anyone who's wondering, like, well, why the hell would I play this? Like, this just sounds like some random game. This is made by Don't Nod, the people who have done Life is Strange, Vampire. Life is Strange is what I most know them for, or that sort of series. Life is Strange 1, 2, Tell Me Why, and
I still need to play Tell Me Why at some point.
Yeah, me too. And I need to play Life is Strange 2, and
I've been saving both of Life is Strange 2 and Tell Me Why for Game Club.
Good Game Club games. Yeah, we should throw those into the next discussion that we have. But yeah, that is who has made Jusant. So, in case you're
pop?
I did. I popped my lips. I did that thing where you're like,
I feel dirty. More so than usual when I'm talking to you.
Do you not like that sound?
I'm not a fan of it, but yeah, I don't hate it. That makes any sense.
I felt strangely compelled to do so after saying Jusant.
Sort of like I'm compelled to go. Oh.
Exactly. So yeah, for the March Game Club, and March is a 4-week, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4-week month for Game Club. So, all right. Well, let's move on to do the news.
Woo!
Our first news topic of the night: SteamWorld Build underperformed, says publisher Thunderful.
I mean, let's be honest. The only reason why we're talking about this is just because we had it recently in Game Club.
Yeah.
So this is kind of echoing what we were feeling about it. Is that it just didn't hit the notes that the developer originally was going for.
Yeah,
and they were semi-blaming the genre, which feels weird until you go with the idea that the SteamWorld games sell really well on Switch. And at one point during Game Club, I did try playing this through remote play to my deck, and the controls were horrible. So I pretty much... That's a bump the microphone. I pretty much immediately abandoned the idea and just would play on... directly on the computer when I was at it. It just did not feel like it translated well, and that's partly due to the genre. But I also feel that the game is simple enough that you can make it work as a console-focused game. But the thing is that I think they're looking for a scapegoat here, and they're not willing to admit that the game was a little weak sauce.
Yeah, as the kids these days say, it was a little mid.
Sus.
Yep.
Riz.
Nope, not Riz. The game didn't have any Riz. Anyways, yeah,
I still think the problem with the game was that it never really offered much of a challenge outside of waiting. If you were patient enough, you could really get away with a lot of poor design choices on the town side.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Because, broadly speaking, our thoughts on it were like, yeah, it was okay. Seems a little lackluster, little like it's lacking something, but it's not awful. And that's fine, I think, on PC, where this type of game works better, plays better, has got better reception. But, games like this really struggle on console in general. Any type of sim like this, or management game like this, or city builders, because even if you have a great game with, stellar performance otherwise, they are more difficult to control this type of game with a controller. And so,
and also the problem is that you can't rely on the touchscreen because even though their target audience is the Switch, if you're playing in docked, TV mode, you don't have access to it.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think this is more of a scapegoat or an excuse. I do think it is part of the issue, but it's more of a symptom rather than a root cause of the problem.
Yeah, this had an opportunity to really draw in people that aren't invested in SteamWorld, because there's there's a fair number of city builders now, and there's a few town builders, but the town builders tend to build on more of almost like a town painter, and this had a little bit of an idea of a town, painting, building a town of whatever, right? Along with supply chains, along with dungeon keeper-esque management there. It just felt like it had its fingers in too many pies to really know what it was wanting to do.
Yeah.
And it ended up just not doing any of them exceptionally well.
And to be clear, you can remix game genres, you can remix whatever, but the more disparate things you throw at something, the more you have to, I think, be careful to watch it for not to become a disjointed mess or, kind of a weird mishmash.
Well, it also didn't help that they didn't really offer much of a challenge on what was going on. Because, Town Builder was, once you've found out, well, I can move things freely around, I started reorganizing my town into, districts where, the workers, let's just go tier 1 to tier 4. Tier 1 would be fully supplied, and then if I needed to upgrade one, I would upgrade it one and then move the entire building to the next district, essentially. Which is kind of a boring way to do a town builder. And don't get me wrong, there's ways to do it like that, but they were so focused on... I think their main focus was the Dungeon Keeper element, but even the Dungeon Keeper element, it never felt like I was really, in danger.
Yeah.
And, going down to tier 3 and tier 4 where, down to the depths where, the unmentionable horrors lie, especially in SteamWorld. But, they just wreck my stuff, and, I wait for, someone to show up and repair it. Once again, it was a waiting game. I think that they are wanting to not admit that they made a poor game. And I do believe that they actually canceled or postponed their next game. Let's see. Now I'm wanting to check myself on this because there was a story like 2 weeks ago about them delaying or possibly abandoning the next SteamWorld game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm double checking myself. I gotta find the proper name for it because it was kind of a generic name as well. There we go. It was like a shooter, a third-person co-op action adventure. Yeah, there was some rumors going around that Headhunter may have been canceled. SteamWorld Headhunter might have been canceled by publisher Thunderful Group. The third-person action adventure SteamWorld game was announced in November 2021 and was listed for a 2024 second half release. But the game is no longer listed in the release slate. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad that one bad game could just kind of demolish the developer these days. Especially, owned by, a publisher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 3D sequel to SteamWorld Dig 2, so a direct sequel to one of their more popular games. Any thoughts?
I don't think I have any more thoughts. Other than thinking about this, I should play more SteamWorld games.
I would. What ones have you played?
Well, SteamWorld Build, obviously, and then I'll have to pull up the list. Steam. I don't know if I have any of them on Steam. I know I've played at least 2 of them. Haven't there been some that released on like DS or 3DS or?
Yeah, but they have seen multiple releases.
All right, let's see. So SteamWorld Build, obviously.
SteamWorld Tower Defense was the first one. It's on DSi. Then played... SteamWorld Dig is 3DS, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux.
I've played SteamWorld Heist. That's the one I've played. I didn't get super far in it, but I have played it.
Yeah, same. I've played SteamWorld and beaten SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2. I think I have SteamWorld Quest. SteamWorld Dig I really enjoyed, though.
I'm not a huge fan of Metroidvania-style games.
Oh, the thing is that Metroidvania is a broad genre, and looking back at it after playing it for quite a while, I would say it's not really Metroidvania. I mean, you do constantly get upgrades, but you're not backtracking. Or intentionally backtracking, I should say, to progress. You may go back for some resources, but it's a fairly steady progression downward, if memory serves correctly. And there's also essentially fast travel to locations near where your essentially front line is.
Yeah.
I would not call it Metroidvania.
Okay. Just a lot of the stuff that I've seen like calls it a Metroidvania style game.
It's not like, Shattered or no, not Shadow Knight, but it's not the traditional Metroidvania. In fact, let's see. It does have the Metroidvania tag on Steam. I feel that's a little disingenuous. But then again, Steam, the tags on Steam are sometimes a little loose.
Yeah.
I think I have SteamWorld Quest on itch.io. I know I have it somewhere. I do absolutely love the art style for SteamWorld. It's hard to argue that one, right?
Yeah. All right. Next news topic?
Yeah, next news topic.
All right. Twisted Metal game reportedly canceled by Sony amid mass layoffs.
Yeah, so the monkey paw, right? Yay, we got a death of a live service game. Oh no, right?
Yeah. So according to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, which in the gaming industry is a well-known, extremely reputable, sort of deep dive games journalist.
Yes.
Probably the most, to my knowledge, like well-known, legitimate journalist participating in the games industry, if that makes sense. Like there are others that are doing that work, but they are fewer and farther between, I think, than a lot of other entertainment industries. So Jason Schreier, he's one of like the big names. Like I really hope that there's not like some scandal that's going to come out about him at some point, because it's like people like this sometimes, maybe even so often, really, like, you know, find out something about them. But I'm getting horribly off topic. Jason Schreier, investigating Sony's, doing investigation on general layoffs in the games industry, reports that Sony canceled a Twisted Metal live service game that was in development. It was in early stages of development, so it wasn't super far along yet. Mm-hmm. But Twisted Metal has had a bit of a revival recently with the Twisted Metal TV show. Well, I say TV show, that's a misnomer. It was a show. I think it was 6 episodes, maybe it was 8 episodes. It was on some streaming service somewhere. I've seen some trailers and like clips from the show. Like, they got some big name actors. Even the actor who plays Falcon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as one of the main characters. He was probably their like headliner in terms of recognizability, but there were some bigger actors in it. It looks good. I mean, it's a show based around Twisted Metal, so it's not like it's going for like cinematic gold. Nobody's gonna win an Emmy for this probably, or an Oscar, but it's solid like Twisted Metal, as a show content. So had a little bit of a resurgence. There's been a bump in there was some stuff going around about them having a remaster of some of the older games that people were really interested in recently. So I think the only reason that this game is getting canceled is because it's a live service, and fucking finally these major corporations are like, everything can't be a persistent online live service because there's fatigue and burnout and people only have so much money anyways. So that's just my...
Tell me how you really feel.
I like Twisted Metal. I have always liked Twisted Metal.
I never really got to play it back in the day. I really should go try it out. Legitimately, of course, and definitely on some sort of emulation device.
Yeah. I have always enjoyed Twisted Metal.
Okay, here's one for you. For a newbie, which game would you suggest trying out?
Oh, Jesus. They're all so old at this point. Even the newer ones are, like, coming up on a decade old. Twisted Metal. I'm looking up the games on Wikipedia. I played Twisted Metal 2 first, and then I went back and I played Twisted Metal 1, and then I played Twisted Metal 3. Probably the Twisted Metal sort of reboot from 2012 on PS3. Mm-hmm. It's just called Twisted Metal. Which I believe, like, that is the newest mainline game, I believe. But don't try and get invested in or understand the story. Because there is one. There's like a really weird, complicated lore about this game series. It feels very much tacked on after the fact of like, oh, we wanted to make this like wacky car combat game, and it was successful, so let's give it some lore. So don't worry about trying to get invested and follow that. But I would just play the reboot Twisted Metal, and then if you really like it, you can go back and try some of the other games. Twisted Metal 2 and 3 are probably the ones that are the most liked by people, for sort of like nostalgia and like the series was in its prime kind of things, but they're just so old. I have no idea if they would hold up to a modern gameplay experience and be enjoyable.
Might be an interesting one for Gameclub as well,
Yeah.
Because we do have a precedent for doing emulation. Not that we would steal a game, of course, to do it.
No, of course not.
We'd be mailing the game back and forth.
Absolutely.
Because you totally have a copy, right?
I know you're being facetious, but I might. I've got like a box with some old games in it that, I intend to one day make like a shadow box or some kind of display of. Twisted Metal might be in there, but that's an adventure for another day. I don't think I have anything else to add. You said this would probably be a short one. It's like maybe some companies are finally recognizing everything can't be a live fucking service.
Or focus group was like, Twisted Metal. What's that?
That also could be a possibility. Right? Yeah, but
like you said, the latest game was 10 years ago,
2012. So longer than that. So
I guess I'll have to just wait for like the Nathan Drake live service game, right?
Yep. There you go. All right, our final news topic of the night. Nintendo takes the Switch emulator Yuzu to court.
Oh boy, right?
Nintendo doing Nintendo things.
Yeah, so the big thing for this is Nintendo is going after them specifically for a few instances. One, a large spike in their Patreon donations around Tears of the Kingdom launching, the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and a lot of gameplay getting leaked online of that game before it released, because mostly through the emulator, as well as just every time Nintendo has a big game release, here we are with emulated content, right? And it feels weird that have a current gen console, and yes, I know, that Switch current gen, having a current gen console with an active emulator, right? And an emulator strong enough that's actually playable, right?
Yeah. You can't see me. Nobody can see me. I'm like flailing my arms around, like I don't know how to feel about this. Preserver? Probably.
I mean, on one hand, Nintendo is horrendous about game preservation. They now don't get me wrong. Nintendo loves to lean on their old properties. They're going to milk Mario until he is dead, and then we'll probably get a couple more games out of the corpse,
Absolutely.
But at the same time, if it's not one of their main games, just recently, the Mother series was announced to come to Nintendo Switch Online. The Mother 3 having an English translation, but it's releasing only in Japan. Because fuck you, right?
Of course.
Nintendo is terrible about having games being, actually accessible. They've released games as a very, very time limited thing. Even their big series, they've done this. Mario has had two major game releases that I can think of off the top of my head that were time limited. Mario 35, which was just for the 35th anniversary of Mario and was pulled down. And the Mario 3D Classics collection, I think it was, that had Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and I think it was Mario Galaxy. The only way to get that now is getting a used physical copy. You don't have the option to get digital copies anymore. And that's not even counting, the entire, old 3DS shop being shut down, the old Wii shop being shut down, the Wii U shop being shut down, and all the old stuff there. Nintendo is very bad about preserving stuff. And emulators are a way for games to live on past their console generation,
Yeah.
There's only going to be so many, consoles out there. There's only going to be so many Switches out there. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of Switches out there. However,
there is a finite pool.
Yeah, and over time, things are going to get more expensive. And it's going to go the same way that the Nintendo Entertainment System was back in the day. Good luck getting one nowadays because of the retro gaming market. It's going to be not as severe, I don't think, for the Switch, unless the Switch has some sort of major mechanical fault, not counting the Joy-Cons, we're skipping the Joy-Con drift, that causes the system to die, 10, 15 years. Sort of like the original Game Boy. It has a big problem with screen rot in tropical environments. Basically, any country that has a high amount of humidity. Like, let's pick one almost at random. Japan. Japanese Game Boys are notorious. And I'm talking about the old Game Boys. I'm talking about, gray brick of death. Turns out humidity just killed them. They're well known for having screen rot and just, the phosphorus in aside, or whatever LCD is going on. Eventually just, and I shouldn't say phosphorus, that's not the proper term. Whatever LCD technology they're using, humidity eventually works its way in there and just causes the screen to start malfunctioning over time and just causing lines of the pixels to just stop working. So getting a Japanese Game Boy is getting old Game Boy is getting harder and harder. Thankfully, Nintendo was a little bit better back in the day and did a lot of backwards compatibility, but it's the point still exists, right?
Yeah. So ultimately, I'm in two minds about this, but one of them is a much stronger mind than the other one. On the one hand, I see Nintendo's point. Like, I actually do. Lots of times I think Nintendo is like just doing Nintendo things. Their dumbass bullshit, backwards ass views on.
Well, it's the Japanese mindset, and I know that can be that sounds incredibly racist out of context, but there's a certain old guard in the Japanese business culture, and they're very set in their ways. For as mind-blowingly technologically advanced that the Japanese can be, they're also extremely conservative.
Yeah, extremely socially conservative. But, like lots of times, I think of it as like whatever decision they're making is just based around that. I can see their point, but also, number one, fuck them. Like, just pirate from these companies. They don't need your money. They're greedy. That's the main mind, like the stronger mindset. But and like all of the stuff that you just pointed out about game preservation and Nintendo's history of making it at best difficult but frequently impossible to legally acquire something down the road, like fuck them. Just steal it now. Just go ahead. Fight me, Nintendo. Me specifically. Leave my partner in not crimes out of this. He specifically did not commit any goblin crimes. It was just me.
That they know of, at least. And like I said, it's just kind of also a weird position where, having an emulator with an active release schedule still. Because PlayStation, I think the PlayStation 4 emulator is getting work on now. 3 is, if you have enough horsepower, it could work. But yeah, it's just wild.
That's another issue, actually. Like, and Switch has had this problem since day one. It's not even the console's getting a little long in the tooth, like it's struggling. Like, Nintendo games just play better on non-Nintendo hardware at this point. Well, at least their Switch titles, like even some of their first-party Switch titles, just play
Pokemon.
better when you emulate them.
Pokemon has a horrible at the time. I hadn't really done multiplayer stuff. And that's where the latest mainline Pokemon game just struggles. I'm playing with just Anita. 2 people out of possible 4. And the game just noticeably chugs. And we're not even doing anything crazy. I'm just going around the map. But because the game, the console is having to service 2 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even just the console. We're linked with separate consoles. It's crazy.
Time and time again. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I still think that there was rumors going around about essentially a Switch Pro that eventually became the Switch OLED. I do think COVID killed what could have been a lifeline to the Switch's lifespan in having essentially a Pro version. Because remember, for a while, microchips were just outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
So I think assuming that there was ever the possibility of it, there's so many games for the Switch that just needs more horsepower than the Switch can provide. It's 5-6 years old now.
Yeah,
and a portable device.
Did it release in 2017? 2018. When did the Switch release? Switch release date
2017.
2017. So 6 years.
I mean,
no, March 7 years. Yeah, 7 years old.
Yeah,
so
7 years old next Sunday.
So piracy, time and time again, primarily is a service issue.
Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah, and everyone always thinks of that as, I think, meaning just like ease of access, and that's part of it. But if I can, for free, get a better experience by putting in just a little effort and getting a program and emulating your games versus paying you for it to cut out that bit of work, like, why would I pay you? I can get what you're selling better for free. Like, fix your shit, and that'll fix a bunch of this problem.
But that's also ignoring one other problem with this, is that they were complaining about a million some people playing Tears of the Kingdom before release. Are those really lost sales, or are those just people trying out the game before they buy it, or even have a pre-order and they couldn't wait?
Yeah, I mean that's
it's a fallacy to think every single person that plays a emulated game is a lost sale. Every time somebody plays a pirated game, it's not necessarily a lost sale. It could just be trying it out. It could be someone that has a vague idea of what The Legend of Zelda is and had heard about Tears of the Kingdom maybe from an ad or something. And their friend hooked them up with a device that can play it. Because the Switch actually doesn't take a lot of horsepower to emulate.
Yeah.
Yuzu is not the worst problem Switch has right now anyway. Or have you heard about this one? There's a...
is it the Switch emulation, like, cart?
Yeah.
Or card?
Yeah, there's a card that you could put a micro SD card in and just load up games. Now, the problem is that Switch games are serial numbered, so if you go online, you're pretty much going to get banned instantly. But, this feels like them trying to find a scapegoat, and possibly there's some scuttlebutt online about the successor to the Switch, that possibly they're wanting to do backwards compatibility again, and as bolstering a huge library, because Nintendo always finds themselves in this weird problem of having a hugely successful console and no idea how to capitalize on it after the fact.
Yeah.
As I accidentally bumped the mic again. The Wii to the Wii U. I can't recall if there was backwards compatibility with it or not.
There is.
But there was? Okay. But the problem was they named it the Wii U. And even which, boy, that sounds like a dick thing to say, but we'll go with it anyway. I thought it was an accessory to this to the Wii for a long time. I can only imagine more casual audience,
Yeah.
Going from the Wii U to the GameCube. They could pretty much completely dropped backwards compatibility there. And
there's backwards compatibility between the Switch and the GameCube, and between the Wii and the Wii U. But I don't know if the Wii U is backwards compatible with GameCube games.
I don't know on that one.
I do know that the Wii U won't play DVDs, which is a separate thing. But...
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Although there is a homebrew application that works, that enables it, which is kind of crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Maybe they intended to sell that to you, but the Wii U was such a failure that they abandoned it.
Yeah, so there was backwards compatibility, GameCube, or Wii to GameCube, Wii U to Wii, and then they dropped it going to the Switch. So possibly picking it back up again, and they want to go after the biggest competitor to it, which was Yuzu.
Yeah.
Plus, leaking a lot of gameplay that Nintendo really doesn't want to show off, which Nintendo has always been a bit of a dick when it comes to gameplay videos anyway. Nintendo, right?
Yep. Nintendo's doing Nintendo things.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all that being said, hey Rage, why don't you hit people up with them socials?
Well, I've been Caffeine Rage. You could contact me on Blueburb, Gaming with CR, or you could be my friend on Steam, Caffeine Rage. And you've been?
I've been me, also known as Jared. You can find me on Twitter at JMA4707. Same on Blue Sky. You can be my friend at JArthur4707 on Steam. And you can come hang out and talk to me on Discord if you want to. Just be like, what up, bitch? And then just at me. And I'll be like, not much, skank, or ho, or something along those lines.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
So anyway, if you wish to contact the podcast itself, you do so VGLpodcast@gmail.com. You could drop us a letter, voicemail, game-related topic. You could tweet us VGL Podcast. You can jump out the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at VGLpodcast.podbean.com right there at the top. Or if you wish to spread the love, you can find us on your podcatcher of choice. Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this madness possible. You can find out more about that over at patreon.com/VGLpodcast. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kim McLeod. You can find his work over at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye.